Well, hello everyone, and happy Friday. It is me, Omar Bam, coming at you with information, letting you know what's going on in cryptocurrency today to make sure you stay on top of stuff. You oftentimes can't afford to miss what's happening because there are frequently exploits that are taking place, updates you might need to be doing, and just generally it's best to stay on top of things, assuming you're not just putting everything in complete cold storage and you really know what that means. And generally it's a good idea to stay tuned. I appreciate you staying tuned here on the show for your information, and again, don't ever invest or just make some sort of decision based off what you hear here. Always dig a little bit deeper. We're gonna go ahead and just dive into things. I don't want to make this video extremely long, but we do have quite a bit to get into, so let's get it going. And thank you, Gortrobot, for the comment. Anybody else joining in, let's go ahead and look at the prices. As you can see, we have still a market cap below $1 trillion. Bitcoin is down today 2.1%. You have Ethereum down 1.5%. Bitcoin is at $19,526. Ethereum is at $1,331. Pretty much for the most part, we are on the red, and this is following some jobs data that we got. In the last video, I remarked that we were going to be waiting for this job data on Friday, and that could give us generally a direction of where things might be headed. And it looks like the US, this is according to the block, the US added 263,000 new jobs. By the way, that's not even actually new jobs, but I'm not going to get into all the methodology right now of how they calculate this. But they call it new jobs, but just know that it's not really new jobs. The U.S. added 263,000 new jobs in the month of September, above expectations of 255,000 jobs. So things looking kind of good economically, well, better than expected. So naturally, that's going to cause markets, especially risk assets, to go down, which is what we saw today, where we had this reduction in prices, as it says here. That this report, the U.S. non-farm payrolls, are released on the first Friday of every month as part of the Employment Situation Report, measures the number of new jobs in the U.S., excluding farm workers and several other job categories. And the unemployment rate fell to 3.5%, below expectations of 3.7%. So again, looking too good. We're going to see markets go down, but it wasn't a terrible amount. again, and we're still pretty much range bound when it comes to cryptocurrencies here, so not too big of a story. Oh, sorry, and to remark on the last bit here, the next day to be looking forward for the macro situation is next Thursday's inflation print here, where we're going to be getting the CPI, the Consumer Price Index data, so that inflation print for September. It came in hotter than expected in August, which caused some volatility, it says here. So yes, there's usually a lot of volatility surrounding this kind of print. It's like every single time people are waiting to hear that inflation is getting, it's either getting better, and that would cause the Fed to pivot, and people just are looking for those signs that the Fed is going to be pivoting. And that's pretty much what everyone's staying tuned for. BNB chain, so BNB's smart chain, BSC, which is ran by Binance. They're one of the biggest exchanges. They had an issue where they had to freeze the entire blockchain after a $100 million exploit. I actually heard it was over $570 million, but that was mitigated to about $100 million as tokens were just printed. So, yeah, as it says here, this is kind of a summary of what happened on BNB Chain Official. We want to confirm that we coordinated with validators. So there are, I believe, 24 validators. We'll look at that in a moment for BSC Chain, which are pretty much hand-selected as a committee from Binance. So how centralized or decentralized is it is really the big question here. If you can pause a blockchain and then reset it, basically, or do some sort of rollback, as some are calling it, like we're seeing today take place. We want to confirm, it says here, that we coordinated with the validators to temporarily suspend BNB Smart Chain BSC after having determined an exploit on a cross-chain bridge, the BSC token hub, which resulted in extra BNB. So there was an exploit that was taken advantage of where the attacker was able to print tokens out of nothing. We have asked all validators to temporarily suspend BSC. The issue is contained now. Your funds are safe. There has been an update that has been issued, and the blockchain is running again. We apologize for the inconvenience, and we'll provide further updates accordingly. Yeah, this update patched this exploit. The community has already played a pivotal role in assisting and helping freeze any transfers. All funds are safe. So no users actually lost any sort of money. However, you could say that there was dilution that might have taken place if these funds were not frozen or whatever, because tokens were printed out of nothing. So initial estimates for the funds taking off of BSC are between $100 million and $110 million. Again, printed, not really taken off. They were printed and then taken off of Binance Smart Chain. However, thanks to the community and our internal and external security partners, an estimated $7 million has already been frozen, some of which I believe are blacklisted on Tether. We are humbled by the speed and collaboration from the community to freeze funds. And there was a little bit more of a post-mortem here that came out on bnbchain.org. First, we want to apologize to the community for the exploit that occurred. We own this. Decentralized chains are not designed to be stopped, but by contacting community validators one by one, we were able to stop the incident from spreading. So they couldn't just hit one button. They had to call everybody up, as it says here. 26 active validators and 44 in total that they have across different time zones to get this to take place. This delayed closure, but we were able to minimize the loss. Some are saying that this is actually a good thing, where you can have the blockchain stopped so you can do some sort of bandage for an exploit like this, or recover user funds. I remember back in Ethereum days when Ethereum Classic launched, this was just a death knell. People would be like, why are people even using that chain? And yet still, you see, there's still going to be continued usage, volume, whatever, likely for Binance Chain, since there is a lot of support for this move and the way that this was handled. I do, by the way, always appreciate the transparency from the CEO, CZ of Binance. He did go on Twitter and update people on the situation and give people an update as to whether funds were safe and everything else. So at least he's cool and quite personable in that sort of way. But again, our blockchain's meant to be stopped. What is really the point here? Anyway, 26 active validators and 44 in total that they have across different time zones to get this to take place. This delayed closure, but we were able to minimize the loss. Some are saying that this is actually a good thing, where you can have the blockchain stopped so you can recover user funds. I remember back in Ethereum days when Ethereum Classic launched, this was just a death knell. People would be like, why are people even using that chain? And yet still, you see, there's still going to be continued usage, volume, whatever, likely for Binance Chain, since there is a lot of support for this move and the way that this was handled. I do, by the way, always appreciate the transparency from the CEO, CZ of Binance. He did go on Twitter and update people on the situation and give people an update as to whether funds were safe and everything else. So at least he's cool and quite personable in that sort of way. But again, our blockchain's meant to be stopped. What is really the point here? Anyway, A timeline of events and details will be shared with all parties following a thorough post-mortem. In the meantime, here's what happened. There was an exploit affecting the native cross-chain bridge between BNB Beacon Chain and BNB Smart Chain, known as BSC Token Hub. A total of 2 million BNB were withdrawn. The exploit was through a sophisticated forging of the low-level proof into one common library. So next, there's going to be an on-chain governance vote that's going to be taking place, a kind of system that's going to be coming up very soon, which are going to determine what to do with 4 actions, what to do with the hacked funds, freeze or not freeze, whether to use BNB auto burn to cover the remaining hacked funds or not, a white hat program for future bugs found with $1 million bounty for each significant bug found. I think that should have been in place already. That might have avoided this kind of situation, and it's something you see with a lot of projects already where there is some sort of bounty like that. And Ethereum, even before launching the merge, launched a limited one as well. A bounty for catching hackers up to 10% of the recovered funds could be given for figuring that out. So yes, there's going to be a new on-chain governance mechanism introduced onto the BNB chain soon, which is going to be doing this kind of voting. But I thought this is interesting, all of this whole story following what happened with this announcement yesterday, where BSV announced, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, that they're launching their blacklist manager for digital asset recovery. And they pitched it like this. Imagine if gold turned to lead when stolen. Oh, I don't have gold anymore. If the thief gives it back, it turns to gold again. Hashtag Satoshi Nakamoto. They should have put hashtag Craig right there. We proudly announced Blacklist Manager, the first software tool allowing Bitcoin miners to comply with court orders to freeze lost or stolen coins. This is interesting, but not too much of a surprise that BSV natively wants to allow for freezing of tokens. We see this kind of stuff happen with more centralized projects, usually like USDC or some sort of other stable coin, for example, where when they're centralized or issued from some sort of exchange like that, there are blacklist-like functionalities. But I haven't really seen this done from a public blockchain, although when Bitcoin Satoshi Vision came out, there was an announcement that they wanted to be there for the corporations, be there for the governments. They wanted to be there in order to enable for this kinds of freezing. So it's not a surprise, although it has been a while coming for this to come out. So if you think it's cool to be freezing funds for whatever reason, not your keys, or whatever, if you're supposed to have sovereignty of those coins, rather, should they always be in your possession? I guess not. If a government disagrees with that, is the kind of road that Bitcoin SV has announced they wanted to go on, and they are in fact going on. And we do know that the founders love court, as we always talk about. So Visa has partnered with FTX. They're going to be launching a debit card. This caused at one point today their FTX token to go up like 7% from what I read. It's going to be offering these debit cards in 40 different countries with a focus on Latin America, Asia, and Europe. So not too different from offerings we've seen, for example, from Crypto.com and their debit cards, or the ones that you have, for example, with Coinbase. They have a debit card as well. But this is the first one from FTX that has now partnered with Visa again, that has over 70 different crypto partnerships now, which is quite huge. And the Visa CFO, Vasant Prabhu, told CNBC, who outed this news earlier, that even though values have come down in crypto, there's still steady interest. We don't have a position as a company on what the value of cryptocurrency should be or whether it's a good thing in the long run. As long as people have things they want to buy, we want to facilitate it. So it's not necessarily that they believe it's going to be here long term or anything like that, or that it's good for the everyday user. But if the everyday user wants to use it for purchases, then they're all for it, according to Visa. And this especially could be helpful in emerging markets or markets that have huge inflation, like Turkey, where they have 83% inflation, and Argentina at 78%, where there is potentially a lot more demand here for cryptocurrencies. Holding their value and doing this kind of sideways action is a good thing rather than losing value continually. So that's somewhere that they're going to be focused on. Bankman-Fried, Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of FTX, said many of these things are potentially cool and valuable in the United States, but more so when you look globally, that's where you'll find places with really poor alternatives for payment rails and huge demands for something better. I've heard a lot of people now saying, hey, don't support that guy. He's just a shill. He doesn't believe in decentralization. He doesn't believe in the ethos of crypto originally. He's here for the banksters. That's part of the conversation that's out there right now. But I think it is nice if you do have an FTX account and you wanted to be able to use your funds without having to take them off of the exchange. That could soon be available for you with this new offering with Visa. So one of the biggest drama that is taking place today, what's up, Pothead? What's up, Curb Shifter? Nice to see you. Is this Celsius situation, where Celsius has been ordered by the court to fully publish this document online, a 14,000 page document that has so much information that potentially could be harmful to users. It has timestamps of deposits, withdrawals, transfers on Celsius. It has full names. It has first names and last names. Just so much. From my understanding of people who had earned something within the last 90 days or something on Celsius, their name might be on this, but this is a cryptocurrency Reddit post that kind of detailed a little bit the saga that keeps on giving. Celsius published a 14,000 page document detailing every user's full name, linked to timestamps and amount of each deposit, withdrawal, liquidation, and dates as well. As part of their bankruptcy legal proceedings, Celsius published a 14,000 page document detailing every user's full name, linked to timestamp, yada yada. This is horrific and unprecedented breach of privacy. The list is online in an unprotected 270 megabyte document PDF form, and anyone can search it or even download it. Nosy neighbor, spouse, employer, crypto scammers looking for targets, blockchain analysis firms that can now put a name on self-custody wallets, you name it. And yes, this is a public court document, but man, why didn't they redact part of the names? Well, apparently Celsius did want to do that, but the judge did not want to change the way that apparently bankruptcy proceedings have gone just because it's crypto. And so they didn't redact that information. Why did they put this on the internet? Why didn't, at the very least, they give a heads up? Did they even give a F to do this properly? This is probably one of the best examples of not your keys, not your coins. Not only will they steal your funds, they will also leak your information. This is kind of what it looks like. I'm not going to get into details and really show any specific people in this, but as you can see here, you can see even suppliers and vendors and amounts paid being listed there. And when you get lower, you start seeing that LLCs and corporations that were paid out and had accounts on Celsius earn custody accounts and the such had all of that information out there, including the address of the company. So an egregious amount of information that was published there. Luckily, not addresses for individuals, but they had almost to the decimal point the amount that was transacted for different transactions. And this is, again, a huge document that will probably not even open on your phone, depending on how old the model is. It's huge. It's practically black with information there that could be used against certain individuals. Celsius, again, did say, Celsius Committee of Unsecured Creditors, that we are receiving questions about disclosure of account holders and account balances in these schedules and statements. And the Celsius UCC did strongly oppose all this being leaked. They did want to redact this. They filed pleadings with the court and argued in court, but the court has the final say, and the court had a different view. So, is it possible to figure out someone's wallet address, even though it's not listed there? Is it possible to do that? That was kind of the question that was being posited here by OB2 Kenobi on Reddit. Follow-up post as I do a bit of damage assessment. He said, since an ETH withdrawal amount up to 8 digits, so extremely accurate, and a date is now public, I want to figure out how easy it is to reverse engineer my wallet address. Again, some of these transactions were up to 8 digits, so a very specific amount. How would I go about doing this, he asked. I guess it is also another crypto lesson to perhaps only withdraw multiples of 1 or zero point 0.1 in the future, some sort of like solid number like that, to lessen this doxing scenario. So someone else went a little bit further. Demetheus wanted to figure out how he could tie transactions to address this even more. And he wrote, my go-to would be crafting a Dune query to find all Ethereum transactions, Dune Analytics that is, to find all Ethereum transactions that have a value between two specific bounds and where the date equals a date given on the Celsius document. Such queries on transactions are typically pretty slow, but I do believe it would eventually find your transaction on chain along with the sender/receiver. Unfortunately, this situation is a mess. And this is probably an even scarier one here, especially if you had your information leaked by Ledger. So Ledger, the company that makes hardware wallets, had massive leaks a few years back where all sorts of information about users was just shared and is continuing to be shared. So email addresses and the like. So if you combine both of these, as Considerate One said, you have a problem. It's going to make it so easy for hackers to figure out what are the high value accounts, who is worth hacking, and maybe even going after with some sort of $5 wrench attack, for those of you who are familiar with that one. It's a huge problem right now, and it's again showing just the dangers of utilizing these centralized platforms. Not only are you getting rug pulled, you could potentially be losing even more funds that were not even on the platform just because of your information being leaked. KYC is just terrible. Yeah, it's just a massive story with that one today, so needed to share that one. But Celsius is still in the news as well. It's come out a little bit more details that it was really the CEO, Alex Mashinsky, the now ex-CEO. He stepped down about 10 days ago as CEO from Celsius, and so did the ex-CSO Daniel Leon, who just stepped down from the company 3 days ago. They were the big ones who were pulling out the most as far as top executives at Celsius right before they froze withdrawals. So they pulled out a total of $17 million, $10 million from Alex Mashinsky, $7 million from Daniel Leon, who is the chief strategy officer, because CSO could be like chief security officer, it could be chief sales officer. In this situation, it's the chief strategy officer. Again, just an ex now, since he followed up with stepping down after Alex Mashinsky did 10 days ago. A week later, Daniel Leon did. Both of these guys pulled out Bitcoin, Ether, USDC, and Cell from their custody accounts. And as others were looking through this document, trying to see, who has what, they also found out that Alex Mashinsky's wife had withdrawn $2 million prior to the freezing of withdrawals. But this seems to be the worst of the executives, since you had the chief compliance officer, Orrin Blonstein, chief risk officer, Rodney Sunata Wong, and the new CEO, Chris Ferraro, not making any significant withdrawals during the same time period that Mashinsky and Daniel Leon did. So wanted to give you an update on that one. Also, India is getting ready to, looks like, issue out a digital rupee, so a digital currency, central bank digital currency. This is the first time they've really shared any sort of notes about it. They talk about how they're going to be discussing in this paper considerations about the technology, design choices for the CBDC, possible uses of the digital rupee, issuance mechanisms, etc. And they're going to be soon commencing a limited pilot launch, like we saw China do a while ago, of this digital rupee for specific use cases. It could be wholesale reasons, it could be for retail. It is expected that this note will facilitate a deeper appreciation and understanding of digital rupee and help members of the public prepare for its use. Prepare for its use makes it seem almost like they are certain they want to go the route of a central bank digital currency. Again, apparently 9 out of 10 central banks around the world, according to the report we covered in the last video, are keen on central bank digital currencies, are researching it, and may in fact be already implementing it, at least on a limited pilot-like application like this. But this is the first I had heard out of India doing it, so I did want to share that with you guys. Fidelity has launched a $5 million Ethereum index fund. Index funds aren't like ETFs. They trade, as it says here, only after hours at fixed prices, but they are one of the biggest asset managers in the world. They have $44.5 trillion on their books, Fidelity, and they continue to show interest in cryptocurrencies. In this case, it's Ethereum with this index fund, according to a registration document that was filed with the SEC. So this isn't the first kind of fund like this that we have. There are other ones like Bitwise's that seems to have a lot more under its belt. Bitwise has $1 billion under its belt and $25 million worth of assets under management for their Ethereum fund. But this is a brand new fund that is being launched by Fidelity, so I can imagine it will probably see more interest soon, at least from the institutional crowd, because if you're just an average person not trying to invest very much, not an accredited investor, this is not going to be an option for you. You have a $50,000 minimum on this new Fidelity fund, so I don't think this is going to be driving mainstream adoption anytime soon. And it's quite high, just like the minimums you have with ETHE, so the Grayscale Ethereum Trust, and the Bitwise Fund at $25,000 minimum for those as well. So this puts it out of range largely for retail investors, and again, limited to accredited investors. But if you are accredited and for some reason you don't want to buy spot or you want to hedge in some sort of way, this may be valuable for you. So I wanted to share that. And yeah, Fidelity keeps talking about their interest in crypto. This is just another sign that they are walking the walk as well as talking the talk. Gox Needs Creditors. So this is one of the big scary things that is coming out, is that people are supposed to be receiving their funds who had lost money in Mt. Gox. So these creditors, are they going to be receiving it anytime soon? It looks like the earliest they will be receiving it is sometime next year, and they need to register according to the rehabilitator by January 10th and open. They need to basically register as creditors and open an exchange account to receive a disbursement according to the block here. It's not clear when disbursements will happen, but some sources say it will likely occur next year. And we don't know exactly which exchanges, which is weird to me, you need to register with in order to receive those funds. But there is at least one that in a statement has been appointed, and that is Bitstamp. So if you want to make sure that you get your funds and those are due to you, you could get ahead of the crowd by opening up an account at Bitstamp if you do not have one yet. So that's pretty much a lot of what I did want to share with you guys. What was this? Oh yeah, I found just this last bit. I like to cover security as well and make sure that you guys are doing the right thing. And if you haven't paid attention to the news very much, you are aware, especially if you've interacted with certain tools in the past, of exploits. So this person hadn't been following the profanity exploits recently. So we were covering the vanity addresses for Ethereum, where if you wanted to have an Ethereum address that looked really cool, like 0x bad code or 0x coffee followed by a string of numbers, so it's something a little bit more human readable. Turns out that some of these tools that were generating these kinds of vanity addresses were resulting in people getting hacked of the funds that was parked in those addresses. So unfortunately for this person, they weren't aware of this, and they had their funds completely drained that were in their vanity address. They wrote here, wow, it's been a long time since I wrote last on the daily. So this is the daily thread for ETH Finance. Have been distant from markets and news for some time now. Today I noticed a wallet I created using Profanity Tool, one of these vanity address generators, was emptied a couple days ago, hence got aware of the Profanity vulnerability. That sucks. Wasn't a major part of my portfolio, but still a sizable sum. Though kind of relieving to see was a vulnerability with Profanity. When I first saw the wallet drained, I was a lot more worried that my digital security got compromised, which is a lot more scary. I guess it's time to start reading the daily every day again. It pays to follow crypto. Anyway, as we wrap up for the week here, I hope you've enjoyed this week in crypto. It's been a lot of news for sure, and I'm excited always to see what the next week brings. Hopefully good news. I don't like to hear about people being hacked, but it is nice to be hearing about new products and opportunities that take place. I'll try to bring that to you guys as always. And I will leave this quote of the day. I think it's especially relevant during the bear market, by William Feather. Success seems to be largely a matter of hanging on after others have let go. May you all be rewarded for your patience and for sticking around. Take care. Much love, everyone. Have a great weekend and stay cryptic. Peace.